The anime began with the princess of the Kingdom of Highland, Alicia Difta, researching heavenly records. The note told a story of a savior who had come to save the world from calamity. Long ago, humans lived side by side with the seraphim, a race of heavenly tribes. However, humans began to forget their existence, so they slowly began to part with humans. Then after that came the demons who destroyed the world. Alicia saw all the havoc that occurred in the world. A giant dragon also revealed its form in front of Alicia, which caused her to become traumatized and scared. After that, Alicia went to the ruins of the heavenly records to find the savior. There was a seraphim inside the ruins, but Alicia couldn't see it. Suddenly, Alicia was attacked by a lot of insects. Luckily, the seraphim was able to protect her. But Alicia suddenly fell into the basement. On the other hand, there was a man named Sori who lived in Elysia village. Seraphim raised him in that village, and he also had a friend named Mikleo. They together explored the ruins. When they were exploring, they met Alicia, who was unconscious. Mikleo advised Sori not to get involved with the human. However, Sori still approached Alicia to save her. When Alicia woke up, she thought Sori was the savior she was looking for. Sori explained that he was just an ordinary human who lived with the seraphim. After that, Sori took Alicia to Elysia village. But when she got there, Alicia couldn't see seraphim at all. At night, the head of the village scolded Sori for bringing humans to the village. However, the head of the village allowed Alicia to stay temporarily on the condition that she would return to the human world as soon as possible. While sleeping, Alicia had a nightmare about herself seeing the havoc that had happened before. She felt scared. That made her wake up and leave the house, hoping to meet the savior who would save the world from disaster. The next day, Sori and Alicia went to the ruins again. Then Sori showed the savior's gloves so that he could convince Alicia of the savior's whereabouts. Sori then shared his dream of having humans, and seraphim coexisted again, like in the old days. Hearing this, Alicia became even more convinced that Sori was the savior. Alicia then decided to return to the human world. Before she left, Alicia asked Sori to join the Holy Sword Festival. The festival was held to find out who was the chosen one who could pull out the holy sword that had been embedded in the rock since ancient times. If Sori succeeded, then he deserved to be called the savior. After that, Alicia left the village of Elysia. In the forest, the figure of a mysterious person appeared. Sori and Mikleo knew about this and immediately went to the forest following the figure. Then there was a fierce fight between Sori, Mikleo, and that figure in the forest. Luckily, the head of the village soon came, and the mysterious figure decided to leave the place. They just found out that the figure was targeting Alicia. Finally, Sori and Mikleo decided to follow Alicia to the human world. Sori and Mikleo had arrived in Lady Lake City, but had difficulty getting into the city center. Luckily, there was a female merchant named Rose willing to help them. So Sori and Mikleo could enter the city without any obstacles. While they were there, Sori felt that Lady Lake City was full of disgrace. It made Mikleo's body weak. Not only was that, but the mysterious figure that attacked them also there. The figure was named Lunar. Sori, who saw Lunar, decided to chase him. Lunar said that he was given the order to kill Alicia. But for the time being, he won't attack Alicia and choose to just keep an eye on her. On the other hand, a noble named Bartlow ordered assassins to kill Alicia. After that, the 5th day of the Holy Sword Festival began. Sori saw a female seraphim lying near the Holy Sword. The seraphim was named Layla. Certainly, only someone who Layla chose could lift the Holy Sword. However, there was a massive explosion inside the shrine, which spawned a demon beast. The dragon-shaped demonic beast went berserk. Seen on the other hand, Alicia was fighting an assassin. Sori approached Layla and said he wanted to pull out the Holy Sword. Even Sori told his dream to Layla. Hearing that, the Holy Sword let out a bright light, indicating that it accepted Sori as a savior. Even Sori using the Holy Sword could easily kill the demon beast. The humans present there were shocked. Sori awakened in bed from his 3-day stupor since the incident at the shrine. Alicia turned out to bring Sori to the palace to recover his strength. Even Alicia gave Sori new armor. Then Sori introduced Mikleo to Alicia, but Alicia couldn't see him, although she could hear his voice after she touched Sori's hand. That gave them time to talk to each other. As they toured the city, Sori felt sick because there was a lot of disgrace in that city. Sori and the others then headed to a ruin where the disgrace had originated. They could even enter the secret room belonging to the Highland Kingdom by using Alicia's dagger. When they entered the secret room, they were intercepted by many demon beasts. Fortunately, thanks to good teamwork, they could quickly defeat all of these demonic monsters. After that, Layla explained that Sori could form a contract with Seraphim. It allowed Sori to use the powers of the Seraphim, but that would put a strain on his body. After that, they all continued their journey through the ruins. It turned out that there were a lot of people who were slaughtered there. It could be if the higher-ups of the Highland Kingdom killed and dumped all the humans who opposed the kingdom into the ruins. It would cause all the disgrace in the city. Layla then told about a king who brought many calamities to the world. One day, Sori would come face to face with that king. Suddenly, the place shook and started to collapse. After they made it out, they saw a gigantic storm that had hit the place. Alicia, who saw this, remembered the catastrophe she had seen before. On the other hand, someone was slaying demon beasts alone. Even she could absorb the energy from the demon beast. That someone was a woman named Velvet Crow. Then a woman named Ceres met her. Ceres helped Velvet to get out of prison. Even though the exorcist guards intercepted her, Velvet was able to beat them all easily. Then Velvet took some of her equipment. Then she asked Ceres about the whereabouts of Artorias Colbrand. It was certain that Velvet wanted to kill Artorias. Ceres said that Artorias was in the holy kingdom of Logres. On the other hand, there was also another prisoner who tried to escape from there, named Rakiru Rengetsu. It looked like he was a very powerful demon. Because they had the same goal, they finally decided to work together. They decided to release all the demon prisoners so Rakiru could create chaos and diversion. On the other hand, Velvet and Ceres wanted to seize a ship. They would still be in a very high tower. Luckily, Velvet managed to jump from that place safely, even though her hand was slightly injured. She saw a ship belonging to the exorcist guards. Even Artorias' subordinate named Oscar Dragonia was also there. They had already prepared themselves to face the powerful exorcist guards. Velvet and Ceres then encountered Oscar and the exorcist squad. Without further ado, they immediately fought each other.
万死に値するアルトリウス様より授かりしクーマとはいえ女性拘束する
Even though Velvet was thrown into the sea, she could still fight. Velvet just found out that Artorias sacrificed her sister to gain power. Thanks to that power, Artorias was able to defeat countless demons. But Velvet became very angry and intended to take revenge on Artorias for her sister's death. Suddenly, a giant dragon appeared. Oscar and his troops tried to fight the dragon. Even though they managed to paralyze it, the dragon was powerful. Even Velvet was seriously injured after being hit by the dragon's attack. Luckily, Ceres was able to protect Velvet. Not only that, Rakiru and a witch named Magalu came there. They also tried to fight the dragon together, but they still couldn't beat it. At the same time, Ceres was dying due to protecting Velvet. So Ceres asked Velvet to devour her power so that Velvet could use that power to fight the dragon. Velvet just found out that Ceres had a relationship with her sister. That was why Ceres was willing to give her life to Velvet. By using this power, Velvet was finally able to defeat the dragon. Velvet eventually devoured the dragon's power. After that, the three sailed on a ship heading to the capital of Logres. Velvet wanted to meet Artorias. Back to Sori, who saw a huge typhoon ahead. Inside the storm, there was a giant dragon. The dragon flew to Alicia's place. Unfortunately, as Sori prepared to confront the dragon fled. But the city area had been completely destroyed due to the previous storm. This made the disgrace of humans increase. Because of that, Sori intended to hunt the dragon. Knowing that Sori would have to face a powerful enemy, Mikleo wanted to make himself stronger to help Sori. Layla then asked Mikleo to go to the Galahad ruins, which contained a legendary holy relic. Mikleo went there alone to get the holy relic. On the other hand, Alicia was ordered by the king to go to Marlin City. Sori ended up accompanying Alicia for a while so that he could go to Sacred Mountain Rayfalk. There might have also been a dragon, Sori drove Alicia halfway to Marland. After that, the two of them split up towards their respective destinations. On the other hand, Mikleo had arrived at the Galahad ruins, and without further ado, Mikleo went straight inside. After going through various obstacles, Mikleo found a bow, but suddenly some monsters were approaching him. Mikleo used the bow and managed to purify all of the monsters. Mikleo believed that he could help Sori to fight this powerful enemy in the future. On the way, Sori met a woman named Edna. They also accidentally encountered a demon. Sori then used his sword and took out the holy fire to fight the monster, but his attacks didn't work at all. However, it looked like someone had come and defeated the monster. That person's name was Zavid. Zavid had a special gun and bullets to fight demons. Even Zavid, Edna, and Layla knew each other. Suddenly, they felt the disgrace that appeared. It was inevitable that a demonic dragon was flying towards them. It turned out that the dragon was Edna's brother named Aizen. Sori, who saw the dragon, tried to purify it, but Zavid said that they won't be able to purify the dragon. Then Sori used Layla's power to fight the dragon. However, Sori's attack didn't work against the dragon at all. That was why Edna intended to talk to the dragon. After seeing Edna up close, the dragon stopped its rampage and just walked away. Zavid believed that Aizen still had his human consciousness. He was sure there was a way to get Aizen back to normal. Edna asked Sori to make a contract with her because she wanted to go with Sori, so Sori could use Edna's powers, just like Layla. At the same time, she was looking for a way to restore Aizen to his original form. On the other hand, Alicia and her troops couldn't head to Marland City because the storm destroyed the bridge leading there. Luckily, Alicia found an alternative way to go to Marland City, but on the way to get there, suddenly the weather became sunny. Looking back, she saw an extremely dense black cloud covering the area. In the forest, Mikleo rescued Seraphim Norman. After that, Norman thanked Mikleo. The Norman turned out to be named Attack. Because Attack had not been able to find a new home, he finally went to follow Mikleo. When Sori wanted to meet Alicia, he got caught in a heavy rainstorm. It turned out that a snake demon monster caused the storm. Sori used Edna's power to fight the snake demon monster. However, a young dragon monster appeared after that, or it still had not fully become a dragon. It was possible that Sori's power could still purify the dragon, but when Sori wanted to purify it, the dragon ran away. After the fight was over, the rainstorm started to stop. After that, Sori made a road to go to Marland City. Thanks to that, Sori was finally able to meet Alicia again. Alicia looked desperate because the medicine she had brought could not cure the sick Marland residents. Sori explained that this was natural because what caused the disease was the demon dragon monster. They all then went to look for the dragon's hiding place and found it. They immediately launched an attack, but they had trouble because the dragon was far above the sky. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Mikleo and Attack were heading there. Without further ado, Mikleo immediately made a contract with Sori. Thanks to that, Sori became stronger and could use Mikleo's power. Finally, they all managed to defeat the dragon. Sori and Mikleo then purified the Marland water reservoir, so the water there became cleaner. It was even revealed that the dragon was a seraphim from Marland City. Luckily, he was able to return to normal. Later, Sori and the others rested in the library. Alicia thanked Sori and the seraphim for helping to save Marland City. It was later shown that Rose was also there, who had come to deliver emergency food supplies to Marland City. After that, Alicia received information that Bartlow sent his troops to war with the kingdom. Sori, walking around the city, suddenly felt a great disgrace. It turned out that there was a human who was filled with hatred and almost turned into a demon. Luckily, Sori was able to purify the person, although Sori found it difficult to do so because Sori also received memories from the human. After that incident, Sori realized the beginning of disgrace came from the human heart. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Alicia was surrounded by assassins.
試すような真似はよせ。
すごいすごい。戦場で武器を持った敵があくまでも専守防衛。あんたの理想のために。
これが私を狙う理由か。
風の骨の真。その一人だ。新たに
私がなろう。
But during the fight, Alicia showed great determination to bring peace to the kingdom. Because death and fighting would bring hatred, the assassin stopped the attack upon hearing that. The assassin removed the mask, and it was revealed that the person was Rose. Alicia asked Rose to supply food reserves because she was going to the battlefield. After that, Alicia and Sori went to the battlefield. Even Rose also went with them. When they got there, it looked like the war had started. Sori and the others found it difficult to stop the war. So, Alicia intended to meet the general of the Highland Army. But instead, they were intercepted by the enemy royal troops. Fortunately, Alicia's troops could handle it. After that, Alicia met the general and asked him to stop the war. But the general refused and instead surrounded Alicia and Rose. Luckily, the two of them could fight them all. When Rose wanted to kill one of the troops, Alicia stopped her. So, Alicia became careless, and someone stabbed her body from behind. Suddenly, a seraphim appeared to protect them both.
君
自分とこの姫様を何なのよこれ天族
Meanwhile, Sori saw a lot of disgrace on the battlefield. That was why Sori came and purified all the humans who were about to turn into demons. Sori finally managed to purify all the troops, but all that was still not over because of an intense disgrace in the air. Seeing that, Sori felt certain that it was the King of Catastrophe. After that, Rose became angry and took General Highland hostage so the troops could obey her orders. Because of that, the war could be temporarily stopped. But the King of Catastrophe was already there. He was a human demon named Heldaft, and the girl beside him was Simon. Sori then tried to beat him, but Sori was still too weak to defeat him. Heldaft gave Sori a lot of disgrace, so Sori had to try even harder to survive. On the other hand, Alicia was seen as very severely injured and dying. Rose then ran and intended to bring Sori to Alicia. Heldaft and Simon left the venue, as Sori was still too weak to fight them. Rose seemed to be able to talk to Seraphim named Dezel. Dezel then informed Rose of Sori's whereabouts. Finally, they were able to find Sori. Sori followed Rose and Dezel to Alicia's place. Sori was seen sitting listlessly beside Alicia. Luckily, Alicia recovered quickly and was eventually rescued. Alicia and Sori also agreed to enter into a joint contract, so that Alicia could see all the Seraphim who were there clearly. After that, they decided to separate. But the previous general they fought suddenly appeared, who had turned into a demon. Knowing that the general had injured Alicia, Sori was almost swallowed up by disgrace. Luckily, Sori was able to regain consciousness and managed to paralyze the general. After that, Alicia and her entourage left to return to Laddie Lake. Meanwhile, Sori and Rose would head to the Roland's kingdom, and Dezel would accompany them. On the way, Rose wanted to buy something from a merchant, but it turned out that the merchant was selling stolen goods. That was why Rose only gave them a small amount of money. However, the merchants did not accept it and wanted to attack Rose. As a result, they were beaten easily by Rose. Then Sori tried to train his strength to face even more powerful disgrace. But Sori still helplessly looked at the shadow of the King of Catastrophe. After that, they headed to Lastenbell City, the largest trading city in Roland's. Rose also seemed to have quite a successful trading business there. While they were in the warehouse, they met Maven, an explorer of the ruins. Maven then showed them the 2 heirlooms he had gotten from the ruins. Then they had a platinum knight named Sergei Strelka. Sergei intended to protect Sori for a while because Sori's power was enormous, and they must all be vigilant. But at night, they all went to the bar to drink and chat with each other. Sergei remained busy overseeing Sori. At night, Sori wanted to purify the disgrace in that place. Meanwhile, Rose carried out her mission to kill a priest. Rose had to ensure that this person was a bad person who had to be killed. Rose and her men immediately went to the church. They discovered that the priest had hidden a lot of treasure under the church. There were even many human corpses that he had previously killed. Rose was forced to kill the priest. The next morning, Sori and Rose ate together outside. Sergei then came with flowers to apologize to Rose for yesterday's incident, and Rose accepted it with pleasure. Sergei then received a piece of information that the priest had died, and there was a big explosion around the church. There was a giant gaping hole near the church. Sori, Mikleo, and Sergei finally decided to explore the hole. Sergei was surprised to see Sori, who could release the power of fire. Sergei was amazed to see Sori's actions, which purified the water sources there. Sergei became convinced that Sori was the one who could save the world from catastrophe. At the end of the aqueduct, the church's troopers stopped Sori and Sergei. It was certain that under the church, there was an extreme disgrace. Elsewhere, Rose was looking for someone named Goran. But after she arrived at his house, it turned out that Goran had not been home for 3 days since he last went to church. Rose became sure that the previous priest had killed Goran. Rose intended to take revenge on church higher-ups. Suddenly, Dezel encountered Rose there. Dezel said he supported Rose's decision and wanted to join in slaughtering church higher-ups. Dezel hated the church, which pretended to be good and saint. On the other hand, Sori and Sergi met the leader of the church's knights and their troops. They wanted to stop Sori and the others. But suddenly, a giant storm appeared that startled them all. It turned out that the storm was Dezel's doing. After seeing the storm, Sori and the others rushed over to stop Dezel, resulting in a fight between the seraphim. Layla then dispelled the storm with the power of her giant fireball. Surprisingly, Dezel looked like he could still survive Layla's powerful attacks. Luckily, Rose immediately came and managed to stop Dezel's action. Dezel then sat down and told him if he had a friend named Brad. Brad was a person who had a high sense of justice and always took the side of the weak. One day, Brad saved Rose, who was wandering on the battlefield. Brad cared for Rose with all his heart, like his own child. When Brad died, it would be Rose who would continue Brad's determination. Dezel promised that he would protect Rose as Brad's adopted daughter. Even Dezel was willing to do anything to help Rose. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Alicia was attacked by an army. Alicia's troops were slaughtered entirely, but luckily Alicia and her friend escaped and survived. It turned out that Alicia had been accused of being a traitor to the kingdom and was a fugitive, but Alicia had strong willpower and would take over her reign in the kingdom of Highland. After that, Rose got information from one of her subordinates, who said she had information about Prince Conan's whereabouts. They finally prepared to take revenge against the prince. Then it showed Rose's past with Brad and also the others. Rose, dressed in a wedding dress, would soon marry a prince. But suddenly, there was an attack, and the prince's troops killed everyone there. Brad sadly died in front of Rose. Sori watched Rose's attitude suddenly turn serious. Sori intended to investigate the matter. The next morning, Sori and the church knights went to a town. Meanwhile, Mikleo and Edna would follow Rose to keep an eye on Rose and Dezel. Dezel explained to Mikleo and Edna that Rose was a killer who fought for the weak. Rose's mission was to kill the person who betrayed them, namely Prince Conan, who also killed Brad. Mikleo, who heard this, immediately ran and wanted to report everything to Sori. Meanwhile, Edna kept an eye on Dezel. Soon they all arrived at Prince Conan's place. Without waiting for long, they all went to infiltrate the palace. Several guards were watching the corners of the palace. It was even raised if Prince Conan and the church distributed prohibited items. Dezel felt that they were all trash that must be destroyed. Mikleo, who had arrived at Sori's place, explained that Rose was an assassin. Mikleo then asked Sori to hurry to Rose's place. Inside the palace, Rose was seen already in Prince Conan's room, and she quickly slashed him. Sori came late to meet Rose because he saw the dead Prince Conan covered in blood. But unexpectedly, Prince Conan woke up and was still alive, holding his slashed neck. Rose swiftly fought all of Conan's troops so that Rose could immediately complete her mission to send Conan to hell. Unexpectedly, Conan had turned into a demon. The more Rose injured Conan, the more the palace collapsed. In the middle of the fight, Conan fell into a lake. Sori then saved Rose, who also fell. It didn't take long for Rose to wake up from her stupor. Sori said Conan might have died in the lake. Moreover, Conan was seriously injured, but Rose still wanted to see Conan's corpse with her own eyes. But Dezel stopped her steps. On the way back, Rose and Sori talked to each other. Sori realized that Rose had a tremendous burden. That was why she killed her own feelings to lighten her burden. Dezel said that Rose was the successor to Brad's determination. Therefore, Dezel promised to protect the weak in the world. Not long after, they arrived in an area and met with Sergi's troops. Sori and the others were asked to pass through a forest because the church's night troops were already watching several areas. As they walked in the forest, they witnessed many disgraces, and some of them chased Sori and his friends. Seeing so many disgraces there, Rose screamed because she felt everything she had done so far meant nothing. But Sori asked Rose not to blame herself. Sori said it was wrong to kill other people for whatever reason. Rose then remembered her past with Brad, and it made her sad. Before long, they finally arrived at Emperor Doran's residence. Sergi had already arrived there. Emperor Doran welcomed Sori as his special guest. Sori and Rose were invited in, and they chatted. It turned out that Emperor Doran already knew all the disgraces in the world. Emperor Doran also told how the origin of the dishonor appeared. Artorius stole the seal of human feelings to get rid of the disgrace in the world because the real disgrace came from human feelings. Thanks to Artorius' efforts, all the disgraces in the world vanished. However, someone possessed extreme hatred and anger, and that was Velvet Crow. Emperor Doran got information from the storyteller if Velvet Crow wreaked havoc in the world. After that, they all headed to Pendrago. On the way, Rose proposed a joint contract with Sori, so she could see Disgrace and help Sori save the world. Lalila then appeared and said if Rose wanted to make a contract with Sori, then Rose must support Sori and protect him. Because if Sori died, then Rose died too. But in exchange, Rose would get huge power to eradicate Disgrace. Rose agreed. It wasn't long before they arrived at the Pendrago City Church, where there was an extreme disgrace. Without further ado, Dezel immediately destroyed the entrance of the church. Inside the church, they found a giant dead dragon. It could be seen that the disgrace all came from that dragon. Rose then made a contract with Sori so that the two of them could purify the dragon together. At the same time, the others were tasked with protecting them both. With all their might, they exerted their strength, and finally, they managed to purify all the disgrace in the city of Pendrago. Alicia was finally able to contact Sori from a distance. Alicia said that troops were chasing her. Alicia also asked Sori to go to the city of Lady Lake immediately. On the other hand, it could be seen that the kingdom of Helen's king was seriously ill. That was why Bartlow could control the royal army easily. Even Bartlow managed to restrain a knight accompanying Alicia named Maltran. In contrast, Alicia was seen providing assistance to residents who the previous storm had hit, but instead, they were chased by Bartlow's troops. However, a tsunami of mud appeared that devoured all the troops. Even Alicia was also hit by the mud. Luckily, Zavid came on time and was able to save Alicia. Zavid was there because he felt the presence of dragons around the area. After getting acquainted with each other, Zavid then left the place. That night, Alicia received news that Maltran was being crucified in the middle of Lady Lake. This made Alicia sad. If she saved Maltran, they would surely fall into a trap from Baltro. If they didn't go, then Maltran would die within 3 days. Lunar soon came to Alicia. Lunar felt sorry for Alicia because her struggle to protect the residents was not considered. Even the people consider her a traitor who must be killed. Fortunately, Alicia was not affected by the hatred given by Lunar. Elsewhere, Sori and the others saw a massive tornado heading toward Lady Lake. They immediately rushed to go there. Meanwhile, Alicia and her troops sneaked into Lady Lake via the river to rescue Maltran. Upon arrival, Alicia and her troops dealt with many enemy troops. Then Bartlow turned on the lights surrounding Maltran. There were many troops he had prepared around Maltran's cross, but Alicia was not going there. It turned out that she and her troops were heading to the king's place. Luckily, they managed to infiltrate there safely. Alicia entered King's chamber and asked the king to stop the civil war. That war would only cause casualties, suffering, and hatred, and would end up creating more disgrace in the world. When Alicia saw Runja, she realized that a lot of disgrace surrounded the king. Suddenly, Bartlow appeared in the chamber. Bartlow immediately drew his sword and wanted to attack Alicia. But the king swiftly protected Alicia, which made him hit by a sword. The king fell and was seen dying. Unknowingly, it turned out that all the troops saw the incident. They decided no longer wanted to trust and obeyed Bartlow's orders. After Bartlow knew he would be arrested for attacking the king, he chose to run from the chamber and jumped from the top of the balcony to kill himself. Soon the tornado that Sori had seen had arrived in the town of Lady Lake. Even a gigantic red dragon appeared from within the tornado. Luckily, Sori and the others had already arrived in the city. They immediately swiftly released their power to purify the dragon. Even Sori and Rose tried their best to withstand the power of this disgrace. Luckily, Alicia came to help. With all the abilities they had, they could finally purify a giant dragon. This surprised Zave because Sori, Rose, and Alicia managed to purify the dragon. Then came Simon, who said the king of catastrophe would bring all disgraces to overrun the world. After that incident, Sori fainted for 5 days. Meanwhile, Rose and Alicia fainted for 9 days. That was because they had endured disgrace far stronger than the disgrace they were used to encountering. Rose and Alicia, who had regained consciousness, were seen talking to Mikleo. Mikleo told them they still had a long way to go because there was still an enemy far stronger than the dragon they just faced, namely the King of Catastrophe. Rose and Alicia said that they would continue to follow Sori and Mikleo. Elsewhere, Dezel and Simon were seen fighting. Simon showed a vision of the catastrophe the king had amassed. Even Sori and the others couldn't survive the vision Simon had given, let alone the reality. Simon said that the world would end in the near future. After preparing provisions for food and weapons, Sori, Alicia, and the others decided to go to the place of the King of Catastrophe. Even the Seraphim, Dezel, Zavid, and the others would be helping Sori. Seraphim Norman, Attack, also helped strengthen Sori's battlefield position. Sergei also came with his troops to help Sori. In the end, humans and Seraphim worked together to face the King of Catastrophe. Dezel suggested Rose and Alicia to use holy transformation with Seraphim, but when the two of them did, they collapsed and couldn't move. The holy transformation was surprisingly heavy on their bodies. Only Sori could do that. Sori's party was seen crossing the snowy region. Simon was also with them. Simon seemed to want to see how Sori struggled against the King of Catastrophe in the north. Then Alicia and Rose practiced using holy transformation with Dezel, but Rose still had trouble controlling the Seraphim. At night, they all rested. Sori got information from the heavenly records that said a hidden power existed in the northern region. That was why the King of Catastrophe was also there. Then suddenly, they were attacked by the rising disgrace, so they immediately ran towards the back of the mountain. When they arrived, they saw many dragons flying in the sky. Sori must fight against all the dragons alone. Seeing this, Alicia also wanted to fight, along with Rose, who helped, but they still had not fully mastered that power. On the other hand, Lunaire also helped and slaughtered many disgraces. They finally met the King of Catastrophe, and Simon became a dragon. They should be able to fight Simon first. But the King of Catastrophe and Simon instead decided to leave there. Sori and his friends continued their journey down the mountain. Sori appeared to be healing Rose, exhausted from the previous battle. On the other hand, Alicia's troops found Lunaire, who had died covered in snow. Later, Sori and his friends arrived at a snowy town in the north and met Seraphim Norman named Grimoire. Grimoire then took them all to a place to rest. Layla told Sori that the King of Catastrophe was in the World Dungeon Point. That point was the main guild where 5 high-level Seraphim lords were. Sori dreamt of meeting Velvet, and Velvet told Sori to continue to live the life he believed in, so that later there would be no regrets for Sori as long as he lived. When Sori awoke from his dream, he saw the moon outside was already red. Sori, Rose, and Alicia went there with the 5 Seraphim. At the same time, others were asked to stay in the city. Many dragons then confronted them, and one of them was Simon. Dezel told Sori to save his strength, as he and Rose would fight all the dragons. It turned out that Dezel sacrificed himself to be able to launch the strongest attack. Thanks to Dezel's sacrifice and Rose's struggles, Simon and the other dragons were purified. Dezel appeared and bid farewell to Rose forever. Rose cried because she had lost the only valuable figure in her life. Sori and the others asked Rose to rise because they would not waste Dezel's sacrifice. On the other hand, the King of Catastrophe was seen fighting a dragon. The dragon turned out to be one of the Seraphim kings named Mountless. Helldaft easily cornered Mountless. Sori and the others had arrived, and without further ado, they immediately attacked Helldaft. While they were fighting suddenly, Sori entered Helldaft's memory. Layla also went inside with Sori. They met a man named Michael in a village. Helldaft, who was in human form, seemed to have a friendly relationship with Michael. Michael then brought Helldaft together to meet Mountless. He even asked Helldaft to make a holy shield to avoid the battle between the two kingdoms. But Helldaft instead betrayed Michael. Not long, a big battle happened and killed all the residents there. Seeing that, Michael cried, and he sacrificed himself and a baby from his sister to curse Helldaft to become an eternal demon. That curse caused Helldaft to create a disgrace that spread throughout the world. Sori was still trying hard to beat Helldaft. It could be seen that Rose and Alicia also helped by using the power of the Seraphim. However, the curse on Helldaft became even more potent, and he managed to injure Sori. Sori, who fell, then got up and expressed his intention to combine all the power within himself, so that the 4 Seraphim merged into one in Sori's body. Even though he got overpowered power, it burdened Sori's body. Meanwhile, Helldaft turned out to be stronger than before. While Sori launched his powerful holy attack, Alicia and Rose tried to block all the disgraces right behind Sori. From the ultimate attack from Sori, all the disgraces from Helldaft were finally purified. But unexpectedly, all of that disgraces returned to Helldaft. Since Helldaft became too strong, Sori decided to seal Helldaft in that place along with himself. Sori asked Rose and Alicia to spread the news of their fight against disgrace to the world. Sori threw Helldaft with him into the core of the world. Finally, they managed to win the battle. Mikleo and the others tried to recover from their grief and loss. They promised to create a peaceful world of humans and Seraphim, just like Sori had dreamed of. Alicia was later appointed queen and made peace with Emperor Doran. The humans finally began to believe in the presence of the Seraphim. Not only that, Aizen, Edna's older brother, eventually could control his consciousness because the amount of disgrace in the world had vanished. Several years passed, and Mikleo's appearance changed, becoming stronger and more handsome with his long hair. Mikleo overheard Sori's voice and followed the sound. Mikleo was surprised to see Sori standing alone. It turned out that Sori survived and succeeded in purifying Helldaft. He wanted to start a peaceful life again. and Nine Tales of Zestiria finally ends. Thank you to those who have faithfully watched to the end. Please like this video if you enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video.